Okay.
We are live.
We are live. All right. And I'm getting greetings,
We look like
salutations, and other big words. My name is Ethan. My internet handle is Wrangler, and welcome to Frequency Studios. Today, we're covering a cyberpunk whodunit, a book that's fun, gritty, and you got to check it out. And who better to discuss this with than the author, the man who wrote it himself, straight from the Iron Age, James Krake. James, welcome to the channel.
Thanks for having me on.
How you
I'm
doing
always
today?
happy to talk about my books, and there's a lot more going on lately. Ever since IronAge kicked off, and everyone seems to be jumping in and trying to engage.
Which is awesome. The more, the merrier, because we need more good stories these days. So let's get into yours. Tell us about the book. What led you to write? What inspired it?
So Faceless is my first novel. I do have two out, and a third is going to release soon enough. And Faceless actually came out of two inspirations. One was the setting itself had been built for other stories that will never see the light of day. Maybe I'll go back and rewrite them, but I was a younger man. I was not very good at the time, and those did not get published. But like year and a half ago, I kind of got challenged for why not write a murder mystery, and I thought, you know, Bastion, this cyberpunk megacity, is like the perfect place to do crime stories.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, I kind of got sucked into the setting. Bastion, the city itself, seems to have almost a personality of its own. Are there any particular things that were an inspiration for how you did the layout of the city?
So part of it was some art that I found a long time ago of just like basically hive cities. Are you familiar with 40K?
I am not.
Oh wow, I'm surprised that you're the first person in a while that isn't at least passingly familiar with Warhammer 40K. Um,
Okay, I've heard of Warhammer. I've never played it.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't played it either. Every time I look at people playing Warhammer and I look at what they're doing and then just like dumping fistfuls of D6 and going, okay, so seven of those die. And it's like, what is this game? Uh, there are some really good books, like the Eisenhorn series by Dan Abnett is better than it has any right to be for being about a crazy far future war game. But that was part of the inspiration. I took a lot of heavy inspiration from a manga series called Blame by Tsutomu Nihei. If
Yeah.
you're familiar with that, it's an incredibly visually striking manga with almost no dialogue at all. And that's the joke about it. Essentially, is you look at Blame, you don't read Blame.
I'll have to check that out sometimes.
Oh,
What was
I
really
highly
neat
recommend
was
it.
like the interconnectivity of it, though. Is like it seems like no matter how high up the tower levels you go, you can still get from one side of the city to the other. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yep. It's basically a 3D city where, yes, there are 80 stories to it, roughly broken into four like class strata. The higher you are, the richer you are, basically.
Yeah.
And aside from the fact that like logistics and utilities need to come up through the towers, the idea is that if you basically stay at whatever floor that you can afford to stay at. And just a bunch of research I did on megastructures and earthquake proofing and population density, trying to model what a city comprising 1 billion people would look like. 'Cause that was part of the design parameters. Was Bastion houses 1 billion people. Now, what does that have to look like to house 1 billion people? Because you could just make it arbitrarily large,
Mm-hmm.
but that seemed kind of lame. I live in Michigan. I live in an endless suburban sprawl where you can drive for hours, and you see like it feels like the exact same city over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I thought a vertical city was just a lot cooler.
Gives you a lot more options, I think. because that that just opens up a lot of space for a lot of creativity.
So yeah, a lot of the other world building questions were just they grew out of how does this literally work? Like if you're in a city that's 80 stories vertical, like how do you get to work? And I don't think that you could possibly design a functioning city that has private transportation in that setup. That's why everything in Bastion is done by electric trains.
Yeah, I noticed it when you mentioned that the trains were going up and down, like they would hit inclines and hit the different levels.
Yep. If I actually mapped out all the mapping required for that, it's probably the biggest spaghetti mess of intersections you could imagine. And I think the only way it would work is if you basically search it up and go, I'm trying to get to here, and you just have a computer tell you get on this line at this time, and you'll get where you're trying to go. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, I'm trying to develop a city myself, kind of running into a similar problem, so I know what you mean. But yours is just on a much bigger scale, an impressive scale, and the more I read, the more I just felt the weight of the atmosphere around me.
Fantastic. I really wanted to hit that survivable dystopia feeling. Uh, I have this huge problem with people want to depict these like unimaginably horrible societies, and people are just like, "Oh, it's just the way it is," except for the plucky main character sees it for the sham that it is and does something about it. Um, but you're going to have bread and circuses. Like even if people are abjectly poor in this city and they live in basically closets and they have no friends or family members, fact of the matter is they're still going to be able to get drunk. They're still going to have some means of pursuing sexual gratification and so on. People are still going to be living acceptable lives, or the city or the society wouldn't exist.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit about the overall culture they live in. Like, for one thing, there's surveillance everywhere,
Mhm.
and there's yet it has kind of that dystopian vibe, but at the same time, it seems like people are just free to do as they wish for the most part, so long as they don't harm other people, which is kind of a more opposite of authoritarian. That's more libertarian. And it seems like you somehow got the two meshed together where there's a balance between the two. That
So part of the design philosophy is I often almost describe it as like a centrist dystopia. It's not like I'm satirizing communism or fascism or something. It's like the state of America cranked up to 11, right?
Yeah, it's like
So
where you're trying to have both at the same time, and we see a lot in the real world, like almost kind of head in that weird direction.
so for instance, there are benefits to mass surveillance. And you can see that with the simplification of police activity. Because if everything is videotaped, if there's a mugging, congratulations, you literally have a picture of the
Yeah,
guy. You just query all the cameras for literally what bathroom he's in, and you go pick him up. And the more common one is if everything's being monitored, the computer systems will know if you have a heart attack and you need like emergency medical treatment. So the chances of dying to a random accident are actually way lower, and that's kind of how a surveillance system is going to get sold. But obviously, when the government feels like going and making you have a very bad day, they have all the tools to ruin your life and then some.
yeah, they really do.
So the only defense in Bastion is literally the population. It's the fact that you are 1 in a billion people, and even this oppressive government does not have the time to care.
Yeah, and when a good chunk of that population starts wearing the same mask everywhere, then you can
Yep.
really disappear right in front of the cameras.
That is a big thing that goes on the lowest floors of Bastion, where
Hmm.
there's the most crime, the most unrest, the most poverty, et cetera, et cetera. They regularly break all the cameras. There's huge dead spots that Congress literally just won't pay to fix. Because every time they put new cameras in, they just get broken again. So they'd rather just label those regions as huge no-go zones and let people kill each other.
Yeah. Oh, not all characters overlook everything though. Let's shift into characters a bit, and let's transition a little bit with the first character I want to talk about, who is very connected to the city, literally, Eve.
My favorite.
She is interesting, and she can be scary too.
So Eve is the AI overlord, essentially, and everyone in the city has a pretty interesting relationship with her, depending on basically their own lives. Because you may have noticed that Eve has taken the place that Google currently has.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to search something up, you're querying Eve because Eve controls everything. But what's happening is you're basically just getting the subroutine that she manages. You're not really. You're not. It's not like all 1 billion people are directly talking to the AI. And that's kind of how the whole thing is structured. Is she's at the very tippy top of control, and allegedly beholden to Congress directly. But
go ahead.
Realistically, she's beholden to her system administrators that double check what she's doing and how she's using her resources. Because Congress is the most corrupt political body you'll ever encounter.
Hold on. There's one thing I looked over the chat and saw somebody, and there's one thing I really need to mention. Show me, show you, show Kikomon.
Hello, Kikomon.
Yeah, so sorry, I got a little distracted there. Where were we?
Right, we were talking about Eve. So Eve is essentially the government in practice because she manages all the utilities, all the internet connections, all the surveillance, the train schedules. She actually writes a lot of the laws in the city, and the body politic just signs off on it. Same way in modern America, where the people voting on these bills are not the ones that write the bills. They have staffers do all the legalese to write it, and then they just sign off because they figure it's vaguely correct for what they're trying to do, and it's good for their PR. All those staffers have been replaced by the one AI to rule them all.
Now, but she also has her own bosses in a way herself, it seems. But before we get into that, I noticed sometimes when Elliot was speaking with her, he was speaking with like an aspect of her that wasn't connected to the rest of the internet structure of the city. Was I understanding that right? Like this is almost like a separate version until this version like reconnects back in with the main internet, and then all that info I'm gonna guess goes straight to the real Eve.
Right. So 99 point something percent of people, when they think they're talking to Eve, they're talking to a shadow of her, which is, just a dumb chatbot that mimics her very accurately and those chatbots have enough knowledge to know when to pull the real one in for the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, in my setting, AIs are actually tied into the hardware they're running on. I find it so ridiculous when like every other rampant AI is Wintermute from Neuromancer, and oh no, they're loose on the internet. You'll never be able to stop them now. They can copy themselves 1,000,000 times. It's just like there's literally no way an artificial intelligence can run on a botnet. You can't run a general intelligence on 7,000 toasters. So my assumption is dedicated, specific hardware is needed to run her core processes, and she can program, other computers to act like her, but she has to be in these core processors, and they're basically like a body for her.
Yeah, I remember at one point. Actually, we'll get into that a little bit later. I don't know if that's going to lean into spoilers or not, and I So we'll avoid that for now.
Yeah, at some point, we're going to have to explain what the premise of the story is.
Yeah, right? Do you want to get into that, or you want to go over a few more characters before we... Hey, let's do the premise, and then let's do the premise.
So the premise is pretty straightforward. We've already been talking about the setting and all that. Like I alluded to earlier, a lot of police work is trivial now. Like they don't even really need to do reports because the reports are automated even.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make for good storytelling. To tell a good story in this kind of setting, what I chose to do, and I believe has to be done, is I look at where the system cracks, where there are flaws in the big thing. Which is why the chapter one, the premise of the book, is Detective Elliot Blackstone shows up to an unidentified body. This is a city where most people have a computer wired directly into their brain, which is like identifying them to everything via Wi-Fi. And there's facial recognition. Everyone should have DNA and all that. And no one is ever supposed to get lost, especially in their own apartment. And yet Eve has no idea who this body is, or who was living in the apartment, or who was coming in and out, which simply is not supposed to be possible. And that's the premise of the mystery of the story.
Yeah, and the one guy who actually cares about the people that are forgotten is the one who found them. Let's talk about Elliot.
Sure. Elliot works too much.
That he does.
And he is basically the only cop in his department who will show up and respond to stupid calls. Like a lot of calls don't actually need to be answered, and a lot of times like corporate security will answer calls like people are rough in a bar, like the police don't show up, but Elliot does. Because Elliot is largely driven by trying to repair the relationship between the citizens and the police.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing he can really do on that front is show up and help people.
Yeah, because he's not the most diplomatic guy in the world. He seems to have this huge heart, but he doesn't have the verbal skills to match it. And he comes across as a gruff blue-collar guy who just ain't putting up with BS.
I think it would be very hard to maintain that kind of diplomacy for years and years and years when you're meeting, 100 new people every day, and they aren't seeing you. They're seeing the badge. They're seeing the uniform, and they are seeing the 1,000 previous police encounters they've had. Because he knows that the rest of his department, they'll have masks of their own when they're doing, showing up for a firefight. They put on body armor and hide their face, and they're just a badge number, and they go in and they shoot people. So
not the best for PR in general.
Well, I mean, you can't have bad PR if your AI overlord just deletes it, right? Oh, people are complaining, delete. But yeah, so that's the struggle of why it's hard to be a police officer in Bastion. And that's not to say that the other cops are like wrong in what they're doing, because there is a huge crime problem, and there is, I have my own science fiction super drug that everyone's freaked out about. I think when you were alluding earlier about libertarianism, yeah, you can smoke weed, you can do mushrooms, you can do whatever drug you want, except this new drug. And I believe in Faceless, it's not really explained why that is. I think they just imply that it could be contaminated.
Yeah, that's the impression I got. I got like it's a drug that they enjoy, but it could make you sick and contagious and get others sick, potentially.
So,
am I reading that right, or?
I've got some questions to ask, since you're the one, and this will almost be spoiler territory, but it's not book-ending spoiler territory. For the record, this is book one of a series. I have the second book with beta readers. I'm drafting out the third book. There's going to be a lot more, and I'm going to explore these bigger questions as it goes. From what you understand in book one and what you interpreted from it, why are they in Bastion?
You mean the people or the
Yeah,
drug?
why is the entire population of North America in this city?
I wondered that. I noticed it said that the city was walled off from the wilderness around it. But
Yep.
I I missed that part though. I didn't realize that was the entire North American population. I figured there were other cities
Well,
similar to
sorry, it's
Boston
not the
throughout.
entire population. There is an enclave called the Isles that I think gets referred to that like they're Elliot. A lot of people just treat them as crazy people living out there.
Mhm.
And then there's a big colony in California for shipping purposes. But that's government run. But otherwise, the only people that leave the city are the military, uh, and they're basically occupying North America
Yeah.
because of a pandemic that is still outside the city.
Ah.
And Czar, the drug in question, uh, has a high risk of being contaminated with the pandemic, which is not allowed in the city because there's a billion people in the city now, and they would just all die if there was a second outbreak.
Gotcha.
Which is why there's such a heavy crackdown on it.
Yeah, I thought for a city that overlooks quite a lot of things like, yeah, it's cool, do whatever. They came down pretty harsh penalty for just getting caught with it.
Uh, when an action threatens the fundamental stability of an entire country, there are always going to be harsh crackdowns.
Correct.
And if 100 million people were to die because a bad batch of czar got into the city and they couldn't contain it, that can break down the entire global economy probably. Like and believe it or not, this was all built. The setting was built before COVID. Like there are actually some ridiculous parallels between what I was trying to build for like how to destroy the world compared to what went on recently in the last few years. That it legitimately predates COVID.
Yeah. Don't you hate it when you're writing something down for fiction and you see a parallel happen in the news while you're writing it? You're like, oh, come on.
Uh, we have almost surpassed cyberpunk at this point. There's a quote out there that the future is not evenly distributed.
Hmm.
Could be more true. And like if you are wired into technology right now, you are more advanced than Bastion is today. There are people out there that are just like living in VR already. All their monetary transactions are through cryptocurrency. They're tracking election fraud and hacking and CIA deep state stuff. And you can be wired into the most wild science fiction stuff today. And yet I'm fictionalizing it and claiming it's 100 years in the future.
Yeah. So, Cinder,
His
Elliot's
boss.
boss.
You like her?
I at first I thought I was gonna hate her, and then every time she showed up, I loved it.
I also have a lot of fun writing Cinder because she's very brash, very blunt. She is the first person to jump into a fight, but I also try and make a point of that. She's like genuinely a really good boss.
Yeah, because I saw her like chewing Elliot out for something, and then bigwigs show up, and she turns around and just defends him with everything she's got.
Right.
So I was like,
That's, in my opinion, really important to building good characters or stories is they have to be doing good things.
yeah.
And if Cinder just sold him out, you would hate her immediately.
Mm.
Now, there's no way I could use her as a recurring character with going on with Elliot's struggles as he's trying to do these strange crime cases.
Yeah.
And then having a good rapport also plays into she does what little she can do for the fact that she's fully aware that Elliot's marriage is on the brink of destruction. And that's why he's always overworking himself is because of his just absolute crap situation with his wife.
Yeah, and It looks like he's really trying to repair that, and I got the sense she would like to repair it too, but she's so focused on her goal that she keeps shoving it to the side.
Yep. So briefly, his wife Amara is trying to be a video game streamer. And I put her right at that cusp of popularity where she's not making enough money to call herself full time at it, even if she is working full time. But when
Mhm.
you're at that level, you are one good day away from a runaway breakthrough. And you're always one day away from possibly making it big. Uh, so I wanted her to come across as almost as an addict.
It it did come across that way, yeah.
Um,
But there is also a little more to that. She was literally trying to build a career. She pretty much, she seemed like she's at the point where she is a low level public figure and trying to grow that while she has the opportunity to do so. But she's just obsessed with her job as Elliot is with his.
and of course, that leads into arguments and conflict and talking past each other and small things blowing up into big things that really don't deserve to be. Uh, Not the most fun chapters to write, but I think they work
Yeah.
pretty well for the book.
They do. But I can see what you mean by, right taking two characters that you care about and having them butt heads is just, it almost hurts inside a little bit sometimes, you know?
Yep. I got accused of not having Amara in the story enough because my other readers have told me that she's one of the best character interactions in the book. Um, but it was just kind of hard to control like the plot's emotional tenor and so on, and keep her in as much as theoretically I wanted her in.
Hmm.
Uh,
Uh, I see what you mean, but I'm also a little bit in agreement. I would have liked to see more of her, but when I didn't, I figure, well, you got something planned for her in the next,
yes,
if
I
not the
do.
next in the third, hopefully.
She is steadily going to be more and more central to the books, which the third book is actually shaping up to be a door stopper. It's going to be enormous compared to Faceless.
Ooh. By the way, tell us the name of the follow up here.
The current title is Dateless. I'm going to keep that as a naming scheme because the third book is going to be called Sightless. And it's all going to be something less, faceless, dateless,
Hmm.
sightless, soulless. I don't know. I don't know from there. I'll figure it out eventually. But I like the naming scheme, and of course, it's just going to increment. It's the Bastion Blackstone series 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever,
Oh,
and that
I've
should be
definitely
available like February or March of 2023.
uh, shoot for February. Maybe I could pick up a copy for my birthday.
I need beta reader feedback first, and I still have to find a cover artist I want to work with for the second one because I've got a really specific image I want for the cover for the sequel.
Yeah. It's
So
funny. I'm kind of like polar opposite. I had a really clear image for my first book's cover. I'm working on my second, and I have no clue what to put for a cover. Nothing. Maybe it'll come to me by the time I wrap it up. I don't know. I hope.
hopefully,
If not, I'm going to go to an artist and say, "Surprise me."
good luck with that. And if it's a
Yeah,
good artist, they
that
will
rarely
surprise you.
works out well, but sometimes it's awesome.
Uh,
So
just as a bit of
you're
a
working on
teaser,
the third now, or
yeah, I'm currently drafting the third book as part of National Novel Writing Month. Are you familiar with NaNoWriMo?
I am not.
Well, it's a big amateur writing thing that gets a whole bunch of people out of the woodworks, and the idea is you have 1 month to write 50,000 words. And
Wow.
for me, that's a below average month because I'm a very heavy. I have a high word count, which is part of my release strategy, basically. But it's a big event; a lot of people participate, and everyone ends up with something by the end of the month. And for me, it's going to be the majority, hopefully, of the third book, which will be a serial killer plotline, which I'm having fun setting up right now. as a bit of a teaser for the second book, I structured it around a manhunt. Actually, that's kind of my plan for the series. Is each book is going to be like a different archetype of crime.
Mm-hmm.
This first one was just a straight up, we found a body, who killed them, who done it, and then the second one's going to be the manhunt. The third one's going to be a serial killer. The fourth one is I've got this idea for. The idea is that basically a high schooler was killed, and the only way they can get a lead on how she was killed is they take one of Eve's shadow clones, basically,
Yeah.
and feed it the girl's entire online presence to simulate her personality and try and digitally rebuild her as like a homunculus of all of her data of what she was in life, along with like a artificial intelligence mind core, essentially. Still working on these terms. If you got suggestions,
Yeah.
I'll take them.
It sounds a little similar to. Were you a Next Generation for Star Trek fan?
Believe it or not, I have never watched a full season of Star Trek.
Oh, I was going to reference Data's mother, because Data being an android, Dr. Soong, who built him, well, he eventually split with his wife, and so his wife went to the Enterprise to visit Data. It was pretty much Data's mother. And near the end of the episode, spoilers, Data realized his mother was also an android. Dr. Soong's actual wife had passed away, so he took everything, all data on her, and pretty much recreated her neural patterns, her personality in an android body. And so she didn't know. She thought she woke up from being sick and went on with her life, not realizing she was an android.
Yep, there are probably a lot of stories that have covered these kinds of ideas of like simulating minds and clones and androids and self-awareness. They're very old ideas, and they stick around because they're so worth thinking about, and there's so much to talk about with the idea, because it's a reflection on what is our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that I can give a unique and interesting look at it myself, my own little contribution to this idea subgenre.
Now, little off topic, kind of, not really. Are you at any point going to explore self-awareness in the AI? The questioning, is this a machine or is it a person or is it both?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because that did not come up much.
I don't know if it'll be the Blackstone series. Which, by the way, did you notice the way I wrote the series name?
The Bastion Blackstone series? Yes.
That's it's a backslash, as in a folder break. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have other shorter series in Bastion from other character POVs, such as if I have one from Cinder, it'll be Bastion Cinder Book 1. Or if I go 20 years out and Don D'Angelo is the main character, it'll be Bastion D'Angelo Book 1. And other characters that have different roles in the city besides, a beat cop detective.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are going to get a more direct contact with Eve. Because Eve is not only is she the AI overlord, which I kind of facetiously call her that, she's the only AI. And everything else is equivalent to what we have today, where it's just algorithms and sometimes pretty complex neural nets, but it's not true general intelligence.
Yeah. And most of the time, they're just using it as a live transmission filter rather than an AI. It's just like an avatar.
Yep. Yeah. Corporations all use VTubers at this point in Bastion.
Yeah.
It's trendy to make your mascot a attractive anime girl in Bastion, because I'm a weeb.
Isn't that kind of trendy in just pretty much any reality at this point? Is caught on so much.
In most sane realities, yes. Though, there are certain cultures that certainly would never allow an attractive female to be the face of a corporation, though.
True,
That's
but
just not what I write about.
In general, it seems like, I don't know, anime just has this consistent yet still unique style that just grabs everyone's attention.
Uh, I could talk about anime for much longer time than we have right now, but anime has very much narrowed in on, in my opinion, what the human brain is actually scanning for. That's why the eyes are so large, is because there's a lot of expression in eyes in anime. And they have these crazy hairstyles because it gives them instantaneously identifiable silhouettes. So
Mm-hmm.
when you see the figure, you know exactly who it is, and it reduces the effort to identify what it is. Um,
It works well.
it's almost like they're taking out the useless details, like the fact that you have a bit of shadows under your eyes because you probably need a bit more coffee or a bit better sleep. Me too. Don't. That doesn't impact my ability to identify you, though. It's like useless information that I'm seeing when I look at you in 3D. And anime just gets rid of that because it's not helping you think about the character at all.
Yeah. So there's another character. I didn't know if you plan on doing anything significant with her. We haven't met much of her, but she seems pretty cool and she caught my interest. I think her name is Ram.
Ah, yes, his partner.
Yeah.
That's a spoiler from the very end of the book, but I don't care. It's part of the pitch for the future books. He gets a junior detective working under him for the future cases. And I'm glad that you liked her. She's supposed to almost be the upbeat foil to him being too jaded.
Yeah, that almost that innocent excitement of the future ahead with no idea what she's about to run into.
On that she runs into some stuff very quickly in book two. That there are larger shootouts in book two, and I think I had some very good emotional scenes with her grappling with, oh, I showed up here to help people, and I'm being asked to catalog 17 dead bodies right now. I am not okay with this.
Yeah, I would imagine somebody seeing that for the first time, nobody would be okay with that.
Yep. I think I think it worked really well in the story and helped push the character drama well. I am so excited for the
I,
sequel. I
I
think it's
do
so
like
much better.
I do like how she was sprinkled in bit by bit before it got to that point, though.
Great.
I knew there was something of significance with her, but I never saw that coming.
I had a few beta readers assume that I was setting up adultery. They thought what I was
I
doing.
actually didn't think that.
Maybe I fixed it because, like I said, there were beta readers, and I did some changes to the dialogue and the tone and Elliot's motivations between the beta read phase and the final product. But I had multiple people assume that Elliot and Ram were going to hook up.
Yeah, believe it or not, that never even entered my mind. Actually, see, we got about 20 minutes left. You want to get into spoiler territory now, or you want to wait a few more?
Sure. What do you want to talk about? Spoilers. So, if you haven't been convinced to buy the book or whatever, like if you care about spoilers, please tune in at the very end of this chat or something. Don't ruin the experience. Otherwise,
In
what questions
fact,
you got?
let me try and learn how to use this tech I don't understand properly. All right. Right there on the screen. So if anybody's going through and like just moving along the bar for a certain point, spoilers right there, visible. All right. Oh, how did you I got a kick out of their badge number system, by the way.
I thought that would be easier to do than it's turning out to be. So the way the badge numbers work for the police departments is it's a letter first, which denotes their rank, and it's A, B, C, D, E, F. And F's report to E's, E's report to D's, the C's, B's, A's, and Cinder's an A rank. And in Faceless, I didn't exactly explain why Elliot in E rank is reporting to Cinder all the time. That's getting explored mostly in book 3. But the numbers afterwards were originally supposed to just be meaningless. But there became a habit of when you get ranked up, you bestow your previous badge number onto someone else as like a gift.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that were pronounceable became in demand and stuck around. So, you fast forward 60 years, basically everyone has figured out how to pronounce their badge number. And so Elliot is E11107. And his actual first name is never stated in the book at all.
I noticed that. I was wondering what it was, but I figured I hadn't asked you yet because I figured if you wanted us to know yet, you would have told us. You might be holding that back for a reason.
I'm holding that back because there are several characters that do know his actual first name. Like his wife obviously knows his actual first name. I have to dance around that and make sure that she always has something else to call him, because you can't call him Elliot. Because his wife would never use his badge number when she knows his actual name.
Right. And her handle is Lucky?
Yes. That is her, her username when she's streaming.
Yeah, I saw it the way. I didn't know if it was pronounced Lucky like the word lucky, or if it was Lucky if you emphasize or the E there.
I would pronounce it like the word lucky. But yeah, so the badges are fun. RAM, I believe, gets instituted as Fools, which is the department hazing badge number.
Yeah. Something tells me she'll handle that badge well.
You'll have to see in book 2.
I tried. Yeah.
All right. So I take it you want to talk about the reveal.
I would love to. Hey, a drink with crazies here.
Oh, cool.
How you doing, Royce? Kiko hopped off to avoid the spoilers because he hasn't read it yet.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think he did pick up a copy, which is awesome. I love being able to get my book out to people and them having good reactions to the book. You would never hear from me if the first reactions I got were, it kind of sucks, man. I probably would have quit.
Give me a second here. Okay. All right, I'm back. Yeah. So, hey, let's dig in a little bit to that reveal then.
Right.
And
so the way it's
Eve's personality really came out.
Yes, a very fun scene for me to write. So the premise of the murder is an unidentified body in like one of the worst ghettos in the city, and it shouldn't be possible to not be identified. And in order to get the guy's name in the background, Elliot digs into the guy's video game that he's been developing, literally just looking for like the credits of who is he and how do you get in the situation. And the game turns out to be like this guy's manifesto about the state of the video game industry and how he got screwed out of his own company.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's revealed that the murder victim was the original developer for like the most popular game right now, which all the other characters are playing, and Elliot doesn't even realize it until about 2/3 through the book that it's the same guy. And the reason he got killed, or the reason he got kicked out, was simply over money. There were supposed to be 2 of them. They had a falling out over money, and his partner, by removing him from the database, voided all the contracts he had, and therefore he had 100% ownership of the game and sold it to a soulless corporation for money. Which means that the actual method of death wasn't that the guy showed up and beat him over the head with a hammer or something. It's by not being in the surveillance network anymore, when he had a heart attack from overworking himself and drinking 17 Red Bulls a day, no paramedic shows up because there was just no reaction.
Yeah.
So he
Nobody
just
knows he's
died.
there.
No one knew that he died.
Hey, Trippy Soul's with us. How you doing, Trip? Yeah. And yeah, and that's why I said it seems like Eve still has her superiors. I mean, for one, some people need to program her, but she also mentioned at one point, imagination is still in the human realm. They won't let me try it yet. And I was like, who's they?
There are a lot of hard restrictions on Eve as an AI, which Elliot hasn't really encountered yet, but that's part of the design of it is she's not allowed to actually do anything. She can make proposals that have to be approved by a human.
She's
And
pretty
that's the
much an
government.
info advocate, huh?
Sorry?
She's pretty much, she aggregates all the info and funnels it to where it's most useful, it seems.
Yep.
But she still has a personality, I've noticed.
Certainly, if you get down to her original core personality program, she is as human as anyone else.
Yeah, because the hidden antagonist, she pretty much said, you don't care about people enough, I don't want you here anymore. And then the way she made him eat crow, and she enjoyed it. I don't think she liked having her memories tampered with.
Right. Well, would you like having your memories tampered with?
No.
So she couldn't kill the guy. She couldn't fire the guy because he's working as her system administrator. He was basically her boss with direct access to her brain. And when she realized that and that she had been tampered with, karmic justice. She just immediately destroys his life.
Head games, in just minutes with head games, and she knew she just giving him a dose of his own medicine, but with a lot more emotions attached.
So I hope that satisfied you as the resolution to murder via neglect, essentially, because there is no. Like I said, the guy didn't go down there with a hammer and kill the guy, but he was responsible, and he was a piece of human waste working a government job.
Yeah, he was, as Eve had said, you don't care about people. He doesn't. He just will toss them aside and have probably not lose any sleep because, hey, it works for his benefit, and he just doesn't pay them any mind.
Exactly. Well, great to hear that worked well.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. Now, Sightless is the third. What was the second?
Dateless. There's a big subplot in the second book that Ram is trying to get a boyfriend and can't. She keeps having bad dates. And she keeps asking Elliot, like, how'd you get a wife? What'd you do? And he's like, I guess I don't actually know what I did. We just were playing video games together, and then we were dating, and then we were married. Shit, how do I help you?
Yeah, sometimes the worst people to give dating advice are those who are really good at dating because they don't think about it; they just do it.
Yep. So by the way, we're down to 10 minutes because I think you wanted to have this be 1 hour, right?
Correct.
I have basically a question for you because I am trying to be super focused on quality, and I want to write the best stories possible. And I'm already better than when I wrote Faceless. I wrote Faceless over a year ago. I've learned so much more. I've read so much more. I've studied more. Yada yada yada.
Isn't that amazing? The difference one book under the belt makes when you're working on the second.
Yeah, that's why I'm on a rapid release schedule. I'm going to have 3 books out this year, plus my epic fantasy web novel that gets 2 chapters a week. I've written.
By the way, do you have is that available now to see?
Which?
The web novels.
Oh yeah, I can give you the link.
Yeah, let's put it out there.
I always ask people the first 9 chapters are a complete story arc, totally free. And if you just make a free account and give me a 5-star rating, if everyone does that, I'll break into the trending page.
Cool. Yeah, definitely let's get that link out there.
Let me message it to you on Gilded.
Okay.
We don't really have enough time to talk about that. Although I love my epic fantasy story. It's a low magic thing where instead of general magic, with the exception of certain demons, some people have one specific magic ability, and they use it as best as they can. Because I took inspiration from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The main character of my web novel regenerates. He basically has Wolverine level regeneration and a sword, and he goes and stabs monsters to death because he will heal instead of die. And he's on a quest to take over the world. It's a lot of fun to write that story. Circling back to what I was getting to, though, do you have any critiques for me? I am completely open. What did I do bad? Give me my lumps. We're at the end. If people have stuck around for an hour, I don't think they're going to mind hearing my flaws.
I'm I'm not sure I have any lumps to give because I've only got one book under the belt myself, and I'm looking at your writing style, and it seems kind of on par with mine, and I'm guessing like the next book is going to be even better, and I'm going to look at that and go, oh man, I got to step up my game.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so I'm also new to being an author, so I got a lot to learn before I could really start giving critiques.
I mean, that's perfectly fair, but it's never stopped a reader before going, "Oh, I hated this," or this part was so boring, and so on.
Yeah, but also keep in mind, I read a lot in my early 20s, and then I went through like a 20-year hiatus where I barely read anything, and I just got back to reading again.
Fair enough.
So,
Unfortunately, I had maybe 10 years of my life where I didn't read words. I only read manga, which
there's reading.
obviously skewed my inspirations a bit.
Nothing wrong with that. I love that stylization.
All right, well, we can probably take the spoiler tag off then if you don't want to
All
take
right.
me to task on anything.
Yeah, I honestly can't think of anything to take you to task on. I mean, I'm sure there are things like if I go and read through it a couple more times, I'm going to start to go, oh wait, yeah, that's a little hinky. I didn't notice that before. I wouldn't. By the way, how many books did you have out before Faceless, or is that your first
Faceless was
publish?
my debut.
That's awesome.
Yep. I got my second came out in August. That's Ship of Fools, which my avatar is the cover art. Um, that's a military sci-fi, almost space opera kind of thing where the space station gets attacked and a whole bunch of people are on an unarmed refugee ship, basically. And they turn on the distress signal at the wrong time, and it's an enemy ship that spots them. They'll all get killed. But they can't contact the enemy ship without getting spotted to know if that's a friend or an enemy, right?
Yeah. I just had to send out a quick message.
On my third book, which is supposed to come out in December, and I'm trying to get an advance copy to Drink with Crazy so he can read that. That is a heist novel set inside a video game. And the protagonists are the NPCs in the game trying to rig the market against the players.
That sounds like a blast.
It's also my attempt at comedy. And I think it's pretty funny, pretty often. A lot of the chapters are like adventure content almost because they have to go fight dungeon boss monsters to get the materials they need to pull off the heist. But I think I did a pretty good job making it funny. I love Terry Pratchett as an author. I highly respect Discworld and all that. I don't have that dry, shockingly funny wit that he had. But I think I did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I look forward to reading that. I definitely want to check that out.
If you enjoy video
so
game culture,
hopefully a little before spring we'll be seeing the sequel then. If things go
absolutely.
according to plan, correct?
Like I said, it's with beta readers right now. I have the whole thing drafted and redrafted and redrafted. I just need to know what people think about the developments.
Oh.
I kind of did like a reverse hero's journey, or rather, I gave the antagonist a hero's journey because like I said, it's a manhunt because a 17-year-old right before getting drafted for mandatory military service knocks out this guy kissing his girlfriend, kills him, and goes, "Oh, I just ruined my life." So he's trying to escape the city, and Elliot is the one that's trying to arrest him.
But escape to where?
The crazy people up in the Isles. Which, by the way, I have a whole timeline for this entire setting, spanning from 2012 when the pandemic broke out,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the divergence point from reality and Bastion out, and it actually connects to Ship of Fools. So I'm gonna have a lot.
So up until the year 2012, the history within your book's world and our history are the same.
Yep. Which led to a really weird moment where, in one of the flashback chapters from the victims resected and faceless, I make a note that he's at the statue of the last president. And so I forget how I described him, but it's implied to be Obama. Because if the world basically ended in 2012, Trump was never elected.
Right.
It was just kind of weird that that's how it worked out.
Did it happen to be December 21st when everything went to hell?
Depends on when you think the outbreak started.
Yeah. I was wondering if it lined up with the Mayan calendar.
The Mayan calendar is the exact inspiration, yes.
Yeah, so it looks like you like to crawl through some of the same rabbit holes I do.
Absolutely. I love those.
Yeah. I'm right there with like conspiracy theories too. People are like, what are you paying attention to conspiracy theories for? It's like, because they're so much fun. You don't have to believe them to enjoy them. Come on.
So one of the design principles to Bastion is it is a setting filled with conspiracy theories, and no one believes them because there's just so many. However, every single conspiracy theory is correct.
Well, even real world ones probably have some basis in reality, or it wouldn't grab hold like they do.
Sometimes I think Bigfoot's probably not real. That might be controversial to some listeners right now.
Oh, you just broke my heart. No, I've looked into that for a while, and I figured real or not doesn't matter because they obviously don't want to talk to us. Philip Barajas, they're fun until they're proven true.
Yes. For a while,
then they're called spoiler warnings.
News in advance.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, we are running up against the clock here. Oh, wait. Geeko, how's it going, man?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Doing fine.
All right. What's going on?
Not much. Just been listening to you guys. Excited to read the book myself at some point.
I hope you like it, man.
Yeah, I'm not one for the cyberpunk genre or mystery novels, and I still had a lot of fun with it. Just the characters just carried it.
And maybe a quick question: do you have it in an audiobook format as well, or?
I cannot afford paying someone to help with an audiobook. Even if I were to do the actual narration, I don't have the editing skills to do it. So there is no audiobook version of any of my novels currently. If someone wants to hit me up and start a project, I'm I'm listening.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do an audio of mine because too many times songs are referenced. So that would require buying rights to make it line up with what I wrote, and well, I can't do that on a delivery driver budget. So
yeah, one benefit of writing in the year 2140, I have, or air quotes benefit, I have to make up the new songs. It's like 100 years of cultural history. No one's listening to like Led Zeppelin anymore. So I have to actually write new songs whenever they're referenced, which is not easy if you ever tried to do it.
Yeah, I also don't know if that would shift people's thoughts on the characters if you choose the wrong voice for it. But well, that would be extensive if you actually get casting for each one.
In my opinion, the all an audiobook needs is two narrators, a male and a female. I do not enjoy audiobooks nearly as much when it's no matter how good the guy is, when a guy is reading female lines, they all just come across as so old and butch, basically. A guy just can't do a woman's voice well.
Yeah, there's a certain something that's just lost. It doesn't land the same.
Right. Like the Wheel of Time series has two narrators, male and woman, and they're great. If you've ever listened to them, they're so great.
I honestly have not listened to an ebook, which is surprising. I drive for a living, so you would think I'd have all that, but I usually end up hooking my phone up to the speakers, putting on YouTube, and listening to somebody like a drink with crazy start talking.
Fair enough. I was actually thinking that I should start a YouTube channel and do like 15-minute uploads of narrating through my web novel, and just put it on raw and just like for a couple months, just daily uploads of chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. I'm at like 100 now, and just get that up in audio form on YouTube.
That could be something. You could start getting more attention that way, because folks need to see this book. This is a lot of fun, and fun seems to be something that's missing from a lot of our stories lately.
Yeah, and also James, from that other live stream we had on A Drink with Crazy, I found your criticisms pretty good. Maybe you can do reviews as well.
So currently I'm backlogged on really old books. I do want to start grabbing stories from the IronAge and like Star Shatter. Everyone seems to have picked up a copy of Star Shatter. So there has to be something there because everyone's got it and everyone's liking it. So I do want to try and do some constructive criticism on things, because I do think I can explain my issues with story construction well enough that it can actually be productive, rather than just being like, oh my god, I hated I don't know. I just read Isom 1. His sister who calls him up and like twists his arm into showing up. I hated her as a character in Rippaverse. But just saying I don't like this character does not lead to Eric July making better characters. So in the future, I'd totally be down to do some critique episodes somehow.
Cool. So Kiko, what are you reading right now?
Some of the drafts that Trippy is working on, and after that, Star Shatter, and hopefully after that, Faceless.
I could definitely tell you Faceless was worth it. You're already finding out Star Shatter's worth it.
Yep, definitely.
That just amazes me though, because I think about, all right, I look at his sentence structure and I'm like, wow, this is good. And then you think this is his third language. I'm like, I only got one language bouncing around in this noggin, and I still mess it up. This guy's on number 3, and he's good.
I'll have to get a copy. The last recent release I read was a book by Colleen Hoover because it was popular on TikTok. Oh my god, it was so bad. It was written at like a 5th grade level, except that like every other chapter is sex because it's a romance with the most non-functional mystery element you could imagine. do not read anything by her, even though the fact that she is like a #1 best-selling author right now because she's popular on TikTok. Oh my god.
I've not been on TikTok, so I'm not familiar.
Stay away. It's Chinese spyware. Yeah, that's the current competition.
Yeah. Well, I don't need to give all my information to China. Google's already doing that to me, so.
Right. Hey, at least in Bastion, the data harvesters are your own government, and they're very aware that they are at odds with Asia.
Anyway, yeah, I am pressed up against the clock now, so I unfortunately have to wrap this up.
All good.
James, thank you very much. And one more time, if you want to shout out any of your other works you want people to check out, the link to Faceless is in the description. But one more time for all the other works.
All right, so I've got 2 books out. They're on Amazon and all the other bookstores, realistically, because I use Ingram Spark. So my stuff's everywhere. I've got Faceless, which is book 1 of the Bastion Blackstone series. I also have Ship of Fools, spelled Fuls. My 3rd book, Infinite Money Glitch, will be live for pre-orders soon. And my web novel is The Undying Emperor on Royal Road, or the alternative title, the much better one, How to Lie Like a Military Bulletin.
That title is a little more fun.
It doesn't have the search engine optimization, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, thank you very much. And Kiko, it's nice to have you pop up. You are always a fun and welcome presence.
Thank you. Hope I didn't distract too much. Have a soyful day.
You too, my soytanic friend.
Thanks for having me out.
All right. Guys, I will talk to you later. I'm going to shut it down. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for stopping by. If you enjoyed this presentation, hit the like. And if not, appreciate you coming by anyway. See y'all next time.